Hey, welcome back, everybody. And if you haven't already, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing to help out the channel. And I sincerely appreciate it and your consideration in advance. So today's topic, it's a Sunday and a pretty peaceful day. I largely live alone. And I actually enjoy living alone. I share the space occasionally every other week with my teenage son. And he's a good kid and doesn't get in the way, does his own thing. It's pretty low maintenance for the most part. But besides him, I don't really invite too many people into my life. I actually enjoy living alone and enjoy just, even though I'm not particularly fond of this house per se, it being the matrimonial home. I am really fond of staying home and enjoy my time in and around the house. So, it used to be a real, I for years, particularly when I lived in New England, walked every day. And I was pretty fit, but because of issues with my joints and my knees in particular, and severe ankle sprain and some other stuff, I went from being a runner to just basically being a walker. But I'd walk probably several miles every day, without fail. And the only time I pretty much deviated from that, because I was living alone, was when I would go out of state, either on a vacation, short vacation, by short, a week or so, or to visit my family out of state. And, didn't really walk, deviated from that. But when I got back home, got right back to it. And I was a pretty healthy eater. I mean, I had a lot of turkey, chicken, beef, lean beef, veggies, cereal, the occasional meal for cereal. So I was a pretty healthy eater. So I was very fit. I was in very good shape. Most of my health stuff really has been since living in the South, because down here you spend a lot of time, believe it or not, indoors, and you pretty much hate yourself the way you eat, because you're constantly punishing your body with everything's got sugar in it, including stuff that shouldn't have sugar, like potato salad and mayonnaise and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, not that I'm a big mayonnaise person, it's just that certain things everything doesn't need sugar. I don't know where this country went wrong, but we put sugar in everything. And don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those anti-sugar, crazed people. I like the occasional, I'll crack the occasional real sugar Pepsi. I enjoy that every once in a while. I like a piece of cake. I like a slice of pie, particularly at breakfast. I like that kind of stuff at breakfast, and you can work it off, or a donut or two, and you work it off the rest of the day. Nothing wrong with that. I don't believe there's anything wrong with that, aside from the fact that they manipulate our wheat and use herbicides to cure the wheat. Anyway, but besides that, sugar doesn't need to be in everything. You don't need hot honey chicken. You don't need, sugar in your, like I said, in your potato salad. You don't need, sweet stuff where it shouldn't be sweet. So yes. So the South really, living in the South promotes illness, and there's no reason to doubt why people down here suffer from obesity, diabetes, kidney disease, and so on. But these days, I really enjoy being in the house. I wish, and we don't really have walking trails around here because it is the country, but there are some local parks. I live in a small city. There's some local parks, so you can actually walk to and that have some opportunities to walk, like around the pond and so on. But I avoid those, and I avoid those because of people, avoiding people. You know, when I was living in New England, I would walk on the road, and usually did it by myself. Sometimes if I had a girlfriend, or when I was married, sometimes my wife would come with me. Sometimes when I had, like I said, sometimes one of my girlfriends would walk with me. But honestly, I was just as happy walking alone, probably more so because you're alone with your thoughts. And these days, I really, more than ever, I enjoy that. That's why I'm kind of super ambivalent about starting this job and being on all the time. I just don't want to deal with people and their bullshit. And it's not always negative. It's not, I hate to say that, dealing with people, but I just don't want to, I don't want to deal with anybody over anything. It's to the point now where I don't even want to go to the grocery store. And some days I'm just eating cereal because it's all I have left in the house. Particularly when my son isn't here. When he's here, I stock food and I go to the grocery store all the time. But when I'm by myself, I don't even want to leave the house. I try to make sure, and this is one of the ways, I'm not a big Amazon or Walmart fan, but one of the ways that it's both of those entities are great, is they'll deliver the shit right to your house. You don't have to leave. You don't have to, go to the store. You don't have to deal with parking and people dinging your car and leaving the cart up against it and, all the bullshit that people do, making small talk. And even with the self-checkouts, the folks there watch over you like a hawk. And listen, I understand that because we have a bunch of thieving people in our society today and probably always have. But it's like they treat everyone like a criminal. You're guilty until proven innocent. But I really enjoy just being alone. I just enjoy being alone. And it's not because I don't enjoy nature, and it's not because I don't enjoy being outside, although being outside in the South, like for example, right now, we're having, most of the days are about 90 degrees, more or less. Some days it may only get up to 89. Some days it may be 95, but somewhere, let's just call it about 90, 92 degrees every day, week in and week out for this stretch in the summer. And right now we're experiencing somewhere between, I think, 75 and 85% humidity. See, you go outside for any measure of time and you're just drenched. You can feel the humidity on your skin when you walk outside. If you do any kind of activity, and I do mean any kind, like if you just pull some weeds or anything like that, if you have to strain putting your trash in the trash can, you're cracking a sweat and a solid one. And you come inside and it feels good and you dry off and stuff, but like last night I noted, or yesterday afternoon, in the neighborhood here, I hardly saw anybody drive by. I hardly saw anybody at all. Certainly there weren't people walking or recreating at all. It was just too dang hot. So I just don't feel like doing anything anymore. It's like all the energy has left. I'm really struggling to get motivated. And, I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like this is pretty prevalent today in our society. I mean, because realistically, what are you working to do? Like, I know, and I haven't lived in a city proper since I moved down here in 2016, 2017. So it's been about 10 years since I lived in a real city. And by real city, I mean anything over 1 million people. And it just seems like, and not, I mean, I go into a real city when I need something that you just can't get on Amazon or Walmart, or sometimes maybe to hit a restaurant or something if I'm feeling bored. But honestly, you know, I was actually in the city late last week, and had to go to return something I'd ordered online for my son, and it came damaged. So rather than send it back, I just went to a store in the mall. So this was a 1 hour trip, about 50 miles one way, so 100 miles round trip, an hour each way, so 2 hours of my time. So on the way back, there's a couple of Whole Foods up that way. I stopped at one of the Whole Foods and I got some groceries, and I spent about $100. I didn't get a lot of food, as you can imagine, particularly a Whole Foods, but I did hit the hot bar, and I got enough food for a couple of days, actually, just in the hot bar. And I'll do that so that I don't have to go out. I don't have to cook. Because that's the other thing. I mean, cooking for one person or even sometimes two people. And I know people say, oh, you want to save money, cook at home. And yes and no. I mean, you always have to make more than just for an individual portion is next to impossible to make. And even for two people, making that small portion is very difficult. So you're always making extra. Now, I try to eat the leftovers because I'm frugal that way, and I'm usually making stuff that I enjoy anyway. My son won't eat leftovers, and I get that. He's younger. When I was younger, I didn't eat leftovers either. So I try not to be a hypocrite with him and critique him for stuff that I didn't do when I was young, right? If I didn't do it, I can't rightly expect him to do it. But I try to eat the leftovers, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at also making just enough, maybe a little bit extra. So I don't have a lot of leftovers, but there are usually some. So I'm not wasteful that way. But honestly, what it costs to cook a decent meal, you can usually go to a restaurant and for not a lot more money, just have them prep it, have them clean everything up, have them bring you the bill. Now, where it gets dicey is the drinks. Like, I don't drink alcohol. And of course my son doesn't, he's underage. But, even just getting sweet tea or, because occasionally he'll get sweet tea, or sometimes I don't like sweet tea. I think sweet tea is the most disgusting thing on earth. I don't understand super sweet tea. I actually enjoy the taste of the tea. I will drink sometimes unsweetened tea, which is fine, except you find that down here it's so dang hot, the ice melts right away. And I don't like a lot of ice in my drinks. I know I'm sounding pretty picky. I'm not actually that picky. But I don't like these drinks that are so watery. You might as well just drink water. And that's one of the things I find when drinks are over-iced, particularly in this heat. You're getting water. Or there's so little of the actual beverage in your glass, you feel like you're drinking water. So, I'm not saying that to be cheap. If I'm ordering something with flavor, if I want something that, like soda or a tea, I want to have that flavor. I want to be able to enjoy that drink. Otherwise, I might as well just get water, and I'm fine drinking water sometimes. Sometimes I'll just get water with lemon. That's where you can kind of save, because they really do gouge you with drinks, even non-alcoholic drinks. I mean, $3 for a sweet tea or an unsweet tea, that's absurd. I mean, that's just crazy, I mean, you can get 50 tea bags for... if you're making real tea, which I know that many places just use powder, but You can get 50 tea bags for what, $6 at the store, and that's retail. So they're not paying that. And I get that there's overhead. I understand all that, but still, there's overhead and then there's gouging. And I feel like drinks is a place they really gouge you. So anyway, I almost do anything and everything to avoid being out in public and interacting with folks. And now the thought of this job, and especially after 8 months of being home and really enjoying my peace, the thought of starting this job is giving me real anxiety to the point where I can't sleep at night. And, I can feel my blood pressure spiking up. So just being on and having to interact with people and make small talk. And I mean, let's face it, most of the time, people aren't really interested in how you're doing. When they say, hey, how you doing? They're not interested in how you're doing. They don't care about you or your life. And similarly, when you're making small talk, you probably don't give a shit about them either. You don't care about what's going on. You don't care about, making small talk. So I think a lot of these things, and when people say, our society is not as civilized as it once was, or as social, there may be some truth to that. Although when I look back and I look past the rose-colored glasses that sometimes we wear when viewing, the past, the near past, or the distant past, especially, people weren't all that nice. That's really kind of a fallacy. There were plenty of times I remember people getting into being a little kid. Now this is in the 60s and early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, being out with my father and people outright calling each other names, getting into fights, people getting jumped for being in the wrong part of town. I distinctly remember these events because they affected people in my family and our friend group. So people weren't all that nice. They never were. And, you can go back as far as you want, and I'm sure you'll find the same thing. So I think a lot of times that's why people just want to stay home. People aren't that nice. It's not actually, interacting with people isn't that great. And even having friends, I don't know if you're like me. I have a few close friends, and I mean very few. I still have a few friends from Rhode Island, although those have gotten dwindled down to nothing. And, you really you do learn who your true friends are because they're the ones who stay in touch. But I've got a couple in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and I've got a few down here in the South, and I've got, a few from other parts of the Northeast, and that's about it. So, I can literally count them on two hands, the people that I could call and actually ask a favor. Otherwise, and that's fine. And I think as you get older, you do kind of find out who your true friends are, the ones who aren't using you for money or the use of your truck, or, to help them move, or, I don't know, for a gift on your kid's birthday, or whatever the case may be. Similarly with neighbors, I get along pretty well with most of my neighbors, and even the ones that we don't kind of get along, it's usually just a peaceful coexistence. It's not outright hostility. We just kind of ignore each other, which is fine with me. But, I've got a couple of neighbors that I'm close to, and, they've asked me for favors, and I've been able to help them out. But, that's not why we're close. They're just kind of have always been friendly since I moved in the neighborhood, because I was probably, I'm not the last one in the neighborhood, but, having only lived here for about 10 years, I guess I'm one of the newcomers. There's actually one of my neighbors just moved in just a couple years ago, and they're really weird, just bizarre kind of people. And I don't think anybody in the neighborhood has met them, which is fine. They keep to themselves and they mind their own business. They do kind of drive fast up and down the road, but yeah. So without belaboring it and going on and rambling too much, I think that's where I'm at these days. Is I just want to stay home. I just want to avoid people. I just don't have any desire to be out there and interacting with folks, and just, it always inevitably, doesn't lead to anything. I don't think anything all that good. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd wonder how other folks feel. Anyway, if you like the content, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with others. And I appreciate your consideration and your listening and indulging me. And I will see you all down the road.